Deus Ex Machina, the introduction of AI to furniture design, a paper written by Professor Thorsten Lomker and Associate Professor Katharina Richter at Zayed University at the College of Arts and Creative Enterprises in the United Arab Emirates. But what is the Deus Ex Machina? Well, first of all, it is indeed Latin, and in English it means God out of the machine. And in simple terms, it means that you have something that seems to be an unsolvable problem, and all of a sudden something happens that you didn't expect, and it solves the problem. Our students had such a problem when they tried to design furniture items. They were not able to design them with traditional means. But all of a sudden, the Deus Ex Machina came in the form of generative AI tools. And these tools help them to design feasible solutions. What we have encountered in this course is that we couldn't address and solve the deficiencies our students have in English, math, general problem solving, or even in sketching. But fortunately, through the use of generative AI tools, it was possible to make up for these missing skills that our students failed to acquire. And even though the results are not flawless, they are certainly convincing, they are thought-provoking, and they are worrying at the same time. The development of furniture items such as this desk requires a lot of experience that students in the third year usually do not have. This is why we developed a methodology that assisted the students in gaining the missing experience. We had divided this course, respectively the paper, into 3 different blocks. We start the first blocks to better understand the capabilities and deficits of our specific particular student cohort so that we can later on better guide them through the design process. That block ends with the conceptual design phase, which is usually the phase with the highest influence on the later design proposal. And that is where we saw that we had deficits that we couldn't solve with traditional means. So we integrated another block where we introduced students to AI, specifically the image generator Midjourney and the chatbot Discord. We applied these tools and taught the students how to create images that could act as references. And then we refined these solutions either in Midjourney again or manually. The third block ends with the CNC machining of the furniture as well as an outlook on future use cases of AI. So at the beginning of the first block, when we started the warm-up session, we asked students to redesign a meeting room on the Dubai campus of Zayed University. Students had 2 hours for this ad hoc task, and they could provide us with any design intervention that they found to be helpful to solve the task and to improve the room. The outcomes were worrying, and they were worrying due to a lot of different circumstances. One of the things that we realized is that they had deficiencies in regards to their sketching skills, but also nescience of precedent. So they didn't really see an awful lot of examples in their previous school education. Indeed, it is somewhat difficult to design objects that you haven't seen before, that you might not have seen in books, that you have not seen in journals, or that you have not seen in the real world in person. So as you can see from these images, the students tried hard to put the ideas that they had on paper, but the usability of these solutions is certainly a bit questionable. During the conceptual design phase, designers usually go into more depth in regards to their design project. They also use a wide variety of different media, such as analytical sketches, drawings, but also clay models. Likewise, our students use these tools, and it helped a bit to better understand and develop the designs further. But unfortunately, what we saw that very often, they didn't produce coherent designs, which means that the different media actually showed different results. The models that they built helped to better understand their design solution. But also the analytical sketches were equipped with more detailed information, dimensions, as well as annotations. They also developed variations of their designs, but unfortunately not to an extent that they would satisfy being further developed in the design phase. When we introduced AI to our coursework, we were indeed addressing artificial intelligence from an academic standpoint, but more so, we were also trying to figure out how can AI actually assist our students to mature in their design disciplines. Designers rely on the experience that they have made, either by being in a certain situation, or by reading a book, or having seen a certain building. Most of that experience is what they refer to when they design. Students are lacking that kind of experience. So we have used AI in order to generate references that the students haven't made beforehand, but they are now making with the assistance of the generative AI tool. Roger Shane describes remembering, understanding, and learning as inseparable processes. We use these to conclude based on similarities between things, objects, or phenomena. In artificial intelligence, that kind of reasoning is integrated in case-based reasoning, where we define experiential knowledge in so-called cases. Cases contain reference objects, but they also consist of a description of the initial problem, the solution that has been found, and the result. And it is important to know that the solution might not always necessarily be a good result. Failure is part of learning, and failure is also part of case-based reasoning, since learning from it is an important aspect of the underlying cognitive theory. So reference objects, the way that we've used them in the course, are first and foremost a source of inspiration, but they are also a means to communicate. They help the students to communicate an idea that they were initially not able to sketch. So by way of example, we see here a desk developed with the AI in the style of H.R. Geiger. And I think it is very obvious that it is unbelievably hard to draw such an object. So the reference object here helps us to communicate an idea that otherwise we would not be able to sketch or draw. But it also helps us to communicate the deficiencies, respectively those that lie in the functionality of these objects. When we started our work on Midjourney with the students, we explicitly asked them to develop something that is completely unrealistic, like a scene where someone sits in a restaurant at the same table as a cockroach. The idea behind that was to make them aware that Midjourney is not a compositing program. It is a program that develops images from scratch. Another example here is a dinosaur in front of Burj Khalifa. Burj Khalifa is a very high tower here in Dubai. The system understands that it is a very high tower, but the towers here do not look exactly like Burj Khalifa. Nonetheless, what is interesting about these images is that the system understands that it has to dramatize somehow the content when a dinosaur meets a skyscraper. So it added a very dark background, it added thunder, and it added clouds as well as rain to generate that kind of impression. So when we started to apply AI and got more specific, the idea indeed was to replace pen and pencil with the written word. So the way that these image generators work is that you have to define something that's called a prompt, which basically means that you describe the solution that you would like to see. In this image here, for example, a corner office somewhere in Europe, and then with that prompt, the system generates references. It creates examples of possible solutions. So in this prompt writing introduction that we gave to the students, we showed them, for example, that it is possible to use a command that says modern glass living room area with a curved sofa and furniture, a Japanese architecture integrated with Japanese garden view. This is actually written by a student. The English is not super sophisticated, but nonetheless, if you see the output, you will see that all elements, Japanese garden elements, the round sofa, are integrated into the design solution. So an interesting fact about this here is not only does the system produce correct, appropriate solutions that indeed need to be put into cases so that you can judge upon the quality of the solution in regards to aesthetics, in regards to functionality and usability. But the interesting thing was also to see that these images can produce good results even though the English prompt is not perfect. So these are other solutions for arbitrary office spaces that the students have produced. You see very often they were also using words such as curved elements or organic, and the system tried to incorporate that into the solution, since the task for the students was also to build these objects later on with the CNC machine and with wood. They often also integrated the wooden material into their prompt writing. So after the students applied artificial intelligence, not all the solutions generated were feasible, but they were a real rich source of inspiration for the students. And what was very interesting for us to see is that students started to draw on these designs and develop them further. So from there, students generated contextual proposals for this particular project. They went into bits and detail with the furniture, and they created a wide variety of designs that they later on also fabricated with the help of the CNC machine, as you can see in these images. So to conclude, we find these technologies to be very promising, but we also see that they need a profound academic discussion because they will have a massive impact on the profession and on the society. Education will undergo change, and these tools will require us to rethink design education in general.